Many of us hate slugs and snails and are constantly waging wars against them. However, the organic gardener recognises that gastropods have a place in the garden, just like the bees and the birds. So instead of obliterating them, let's work out ways to limit the damage they do. So today, we're going to look at the traps, baits and deterrents that are available to stop us reaching for them toxic chemicals. But first, let's get to know our enemy. Slugs and snails like dark, damp conditions, and they usually feed at night. They particularly like young new growth and plants that are under stress. So first, let's look at how to prevent them. Don't plant out young seedlings too early. Wait till they're strong and resistant to attack. Don't overfeed your young plants, particularly with nitrogen, because that young sappy growth is an absolute feast to gastropods. If you're growing plants that are continually attacked by gastropods, like hostas, why not just grow something that's a bit more resistant? Raised beds and containers are also less vulnerable to attack. Now we've looked at limiting the damage slugs and snails do, let's look at traps, barriers and natural control. We'll also have a little word about slug pellets. When sowing seeds, always sow more than you need. That way you've got backup plants to use as substitutes. Put down a roof tile or a half grapefruit skin. The slugs and snails will congregate underneath them or in them, and you can collect them at regular intervals and get rid of them. You can use this technique to clear an area before planting, especially if you use lettuce as bait underneath the traps. Keep inspecting your plants, especially at night if possible, with a torch. Pick off any slugs and snails and get rid of them any way you want to. Encourage predators into the garden, such as birds, hedgehogs, frogs and ground beetles. They'll help keep the numbers down. Now, let's talk about barriers and traps, of which there are many options. Here are a few suggestions. You can use wool pellets or grit that act as a barrier but need topping up occasionally. Other dry materials are oats and bran. Slugs and snails will eat them, swell up, making them easy pickings for birds. They will need replacing frequently. If you're growing in containers, a copper band around the pot will act as a small electric fence. You can also use smell, like the essence of garlic, and that can also act as a deterrent. Protect young plants by using a cloche. Good example of that is a plastic bottle cut in half and placed over the plant. And finally, there's the beer trap. Take a plastic container, put some beer in it and punch a hole in the top. Sink it in the earth but leave it a little bit proud because you don't want to drown any of those ground beetles. Organic growers have the option of using pellets that contain ferric phosphate. Use these pellets sparingly, 4 or 5 per plant, and the ones that are not eaten will break down and supply the soil and plants with nutrients. To find out more about how to deal with slugs and snails, go to the Garden Organic website, www.gardenorganic.org.uk.